So we have Rolo, is that correct?
Yes, he wants to join already.
Oh, look at that, look at that. And you, I think, Luna with Elizabeth.
Yeah, I know Liz and Luna, and originally heard about you through Melissa and Drew and Nash. And I know like Naringa and Roxy and Shadow and Paige.
Oh,
Yeah, the
yeah.
whole I know the whole crew. I live in the building, so
Oh, okay. That same building as Melissa.
yeah.
Okay. Um, and it seemed pretty straightforward. It sounds like just like obedience. Is that correct?
Yeah, Rolo's pretty honestly, he's pretty mellow. It's more at home, he's great. I started realizing I have more commands in place than I thought I did. But the moment we get outside with the distractions, it just kind of all goes out the window. And my biggest thing is he definitely likes to run up to people and jump on them to greet them. And because he isn't a huge dog, people kind of tend to say like, oh, it's fine, and making sure he stays on the floor because he's a 20-pound dog. He's nothing huge, so they don't see it. I feel like it's not the same as if like a big dog was kind of doing that.
Right.
So people tend to be pretty like, oh, it's fine, but it doesn't really help me reinforce the whole like stay down and not jump on people. And then Recall, when we're at the park, he's pretty good at staying around me, but when it's time to go, he's definitely like, nope, we're going, like we go when I want to go, and it's hard to catch him sometimes. And then just a little, it's not bad again because he's small, but a little bit of leash pulling when there's other dogs around that he wants to say hi to. So overall, he's honestly not like, he's not a reactive dog. He's not a skittish or nervous dog by any means. It's more just obedience, really.
Anything else for Rolo?
I mean, what else have you seen in other dogs? That's kind of like what I've seen, like based on, but I know you've seen more things. So like what other things have you seen that maybe I should?
Oh, how old is he?
He's 9 months old.
9 months.
Almost.
I'm sorry?
Almost 10. Sorry.
Almost 10 months.
Yeah.
So typically if we're going to see behavioral changes, it's going to be at 6 months or a year.
Okay.
So just because he's not reactive today does not mean he won't be reactive tomorrow, essentially. And like I've had clients whose dogs were social for like years, and then they got attacked by an off-leash dog, and then their dog aggressive next. So there's no concrete answer there. But I would say like, once you hit 2 years, that's essentially going to be your dog, unless like something drastic happens. And just sounds like standard obedience stuff. Real simple. How do you say things to accomplish? The jumping on people, super common. And like you said, like people excuse it because he's such a small dog, or he's a cute dog. Like, oh, it's okay, I love dogs.
Right.
But then, but like let's say one day he's muddy from playing at the park and he jumps on someone's clothes, and all of a sudden it's not so fun.
And I have young nieces and nephews, and they're very used to being around dogs. My brother has a golden retriever and a whippet. So they also don't care, but I'm afraid that because he's now used to jumping on little kids, he's going to see another kid and jump on another kid. And depending on the size of the kid, it could be a problem.
Right, if he knocks him down.
Yeah.
Or if he jumps on the wrong kid that like, happens to be scared of dogs or something. Yeah. So you, I'm sure, know how I train. I used the e-collar, right? All those dogs were trained on an e-collar. And all dogs or puppies over 6 months, I train on e-collar. My 8-pound Chihuahua is trained on e-collar.
Oh, really? Okay, that's one of my first questions. Like, based on his size, is that like still okay?
Yeah, my Chihuahua is 8 pounds, and he's been off leash trained since he was a year old. He's 8 to 9 years old now.
Okay.
So, and I've trained dogs, old dogs, 12 years old, stuff like that. I've trained dogs as small as 4 to 5 pounds. As long as we have contact, we can work with them.
Mhm.
Because it's not electricity. It's
Mhm.
not an electric current running through the dog's body. It's a centralized. So it's electric, but not electricity. There is a small current that there's two probes that make contact, and then you would only see the area twitch where the contact is being made. So if
Mhm.
you put it on your palm, you would feel it in your palm. You
Mhm.
put it on your neck, you would feel it on your neck, but you wouldn't feel it anywhere else. Okay.
Mhm.
So you're not electrocuting your dog. You're not. It's not like sticking a finger in an outlet or anything like that, or grabbing an electric wire. It's simply a centralized current that only stimulates the muscles making contact with.
Mhm.
Um, they use this technology on humans. If you've ever been to a chiropractor, physical therapist, they use it there for like back pain or
Mhm.
building muscle strength, right?
Yep.
Now, in my opinion, it's more refined than the human version
Yeah.
because the human version, there's still risk of electrocution. Um, if you have a pacemaker, they can't use it,
Mhm.
or there's risk of electrical burn if they don't set it up correctly. With e-collar, we don't have that. It's a fully waterproof system, both the transmitter and the receiver. I worked with dogs with heart murmurs, seizures, medical
Mhm.
conditions, no issues, um, and it won't burn. I've never seen a dog get burned. What
Mhm.
can happen is they can develop what's called pressure sores, and it's from if you put the collar on the same spot and
Every time.
yeah,
Mhm.
or leave it for a long time with the two probes poking. It's not from
Mhm.
the stem;
Mhm.
it's from two things poking on the neck that
Right.
develop pressure sores. Yeah,
That uh-huh.
yeah. So, are you in the medical field?
No, but all you're saying seems fairly straightforward.
Okay.
I went through an ankle injury and I was getting some of that therapy on my ankle for my
Uh-huh.
muscles around the ankle. So I've
Mhm.
kind of seen it on me, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, not only am I kind of familiar because of what like the people around me have told me, but my brother also did e-collar with his retriever just through somebody else. And he did a lot of research before because he was hesitant thinking all
Right.
those conceptions. So we talked about a lot of it when he was going through it. So I feel really like comfortable and familiar with it.
You're familiar. Yeah. Plus,
Yeah.
everybody in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah. I've seen it and
Yeah.
I know,
So,
yeah, I know all of them. So
yeah. So, the reason why I use the e-collar is because, in my opinion, it's the only training method that guarantees you off-leash control,
Mhm.
despite the environment, despite if he's playing with his dog friends or if he's chasing a squirrel or if he's running away because he's scared. It gives us a means of making the dog return, even in an emergency situation,
Mhm.
um, which Narenga has had two of those instances with Roxy, and then Melissa had one with Nash where he like took
Mhm.
off on her. So, um, and when we work with smaller dogs, it's actually, in my opinion, gentler because with the small dog, if you do like prong collar, which is the spiky looking collar,
Mhm.
you have to correct them with the leash, so then they go like spinning. So like
Oh
my
yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, with my Chihuahua when he was 8 pounds, when I first got him, because he was an outside dog, he lived the first
Mhm.
year of his life outside, so he was feral, so to speak,
Mhm.
very dog aggressive on the leash. And I would correct him with the prong collar, and I'd correct him so hard that he would spin,
Mhm.
and he'd go back to lunging and barking. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So e-collar, because it's just a muscle contraction, alleviated a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the other thing is, you get off leash obedience right off the bat, but also um, everything's verbal instruction now. So like Nash, um, Luna, the two Winnies, Chocolate
Yeah,
Winnie and Golden
I
Winnie.
know them both. Yep.
Yeah, all of them went through training within the past year, so it's all verbal instruction. So I don't need to even touch Rolo.
Okay.
I coach you through it all. So you're learning everything from beginning to end. So nothing is tied to me, and it
Mhm.
makes you a better handler. Um,
Well, yeah, because I have to learn how to do it myself.
correct. And
Uh-huh.
it allows you to just kind of understand the caller better so that
Mhm.
in case of an emergency situation, you can figure out like, okay, what am I going to do to stop, Rolo from running away? Or, um, if he accidentally gets off leash, he's running towards the street or something, being able to kind of think on the fly and using that tool to get him to return to you.
Mm-hmm.
So here, pretty straightforward. You when you said like he'll listen inside, but when you go outside, it kind of goes out the window, is common because there's obviously lots of stimuli outside. His dog friends, squirrels, other people,
Mm-hmm.
scents, things like that. So that's not uncommon. Jumping on people, it's simply correcting him and teaching him not to jump on people, and replacing that with an alternate behavior, like sitting down politely or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Mm-hmm.
recall and the leash pulling is all standard stuff. And when I train dogs, the two things I care about are walking in a leash and come when called. Okay, because those are the two most important things. Because leash walking helps fix reactivity.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nash broke Drew's shoulder, I think, a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times, and so obviously and Nash is very friendly.
Yeah.
So it can also address or prevent injury. And then recall, of course, because if the dog gets off leash, we need to make sure that we can make them return. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is all you're concerned about, then I would put you in the 6 class range.
Okay.
Okay. Because heel or leash walking is typically 2 classes.
Okay.
And then recall is 2 classes, which leaves us 2 classes.
Okay.
One of those we can absolutely use to correct the jumping on people
Mm-hmm.
and teaching how to address those situations. And then the last one you can use as an overview, kind of reviewing everything that we've learned. Or if you want to teach them something else, we can do that as well. The two main things obviously would be the heel and the come when called. The jumping on people is simple because it simply don't do that.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So like I don't care what you do, Rolo, but just like don't jump on them,
Don't
right?
jump. Right. You can lay there. You can sit. You can sniff. Like I don't care as long as you're not jumping. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So we can make it more complicated by having him sit politely so that he accepts the petting and all that stuff, or it's just like don't jump on people. Okay.
I'm fine with the don't jump on people. Really. Like.
Okay. So and that's just repetition, and
Mm-hmm.
so I would show you how to do that. It's pretty straightforward. Um, and then all the stuff shouldn't be a problem. Now, of course, I can only take you as far as you're willing to go. So, like, if you feel I know you're comfortable with it, but let's say you start working with Rolo, and then you feel uncomfortable with it, right? If your discomfort with the training is limiting your use of it or how far, like how high you go on the collar, you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to get the results you're looking for. Okay.
That's fair.
So I'm sure when you had your ankle stim or whatever, they started low, worked their way
Mm-hmm.
up, and then you said, okay, that's enough right there. And then they let the machine do its work. It's very
Mm-hmm.
much similar with dog training. We start low, we work our way up, and then we find a number that's going to work well for Rolo in the environment. Okay. Now the number may change depending on what's going on. If there's a bunch of dogs around, if there's no dogs around, if there's
Mm-hmm.
people talking to him, right? And you learn how to adapt to all these situations in order to get him to listen to you in return, or do whatever it is he's supposed to do. The first thing we'll do is cover the heel, the leash walking, which is, like I said, 2 classes, and then right after that we would jump right into recall. Okay.
Okay.
So that it gives you, so recall or heel is the quickest to teach because you walk your dog multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Most people walk their dog at least 3 times. So that's 3 opportunities to practice your heel.
Mm-hmm.
Recall tends to take people longer. Now you happen to have a park conveniently located in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
but then let's say you do all your training there and Rolo is amazing, but then in 6 months go to like a forest preserve. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be the same,
Right.
right? You'd have to do some baseline work there so that Rolo goes, oh, you mean like come when called means come when called here too? Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the number may change because it's a new environment with new stimuli.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the more you expose them, you walk them to Home Depot, you walk them to PetSmart, you walk them to Petco, you walk them to Trebs, you walk them to Oz Park, practice on the lakefront, practice at Oz, you practice at the Forest Preserve. Exposure to different environments is what makes your obedience more reliable, okay, or the most reliable. If it's just we walk around the neighborhood and we go to Trebs, if that's your life, then sure, it's great, right? But if it's like, no, we're going to go to other places, you'd want to expose him more.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because dogs don't generalize well when it comes to obedience. So, like,
Oh,
inside the home and sit outside are like two different things.
right.
Okay. So, but e-collar makes it pretty straightforward because if you do go into a more distracting environment, it just means you're most likely going to be at a higher number.
Right.
Okay.
That's based on what I've like just listening to like Wade and everyone talk about numbers and stuff.
Sure.
Like, because they talk about like, oh, like I start here, but if I need to, I'll go up here. I've heard them all kind of talk about that, so that makes sense.
Right. So you're able to adapt to the situation. Question so far?
No, so far everything's sounding.
And he's 19 pounds, is it?
Yeah, like 19 and a half, I think.
Okay. So he'd be on the small collar.
Okay.
It's meant for 35-pound dogs and under.
Okay.
It runs about 237-ish with tax.
Okay.
It's a fully waterproof system. He can go swimming in it. It's a half-mile range, so plenty of range for the standard family pet.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a smaller box as well, so for the smaller dogs, it's not this big thing here. And that you can pick them up on Amazon. Maria would send you the make and model.
Okay.
And then and then what I suggest is when you do get your collar, is you mess with the dial on the remote. It should go in increments of 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 127 in increments of 1. So if you turn the dial and like 5 goes to like 40 very quickly, you have a lemon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because since it's electric, obviously there can be some lemons or some duds. So I always recommend that people try the collar out first. You don't need to use it, but just mess with the dial. Because it happens from time to time where they'll show up and I'll look at the remote and I'll move it and it's all over the place. And I go, uh-oh, like we have to exchange this because this is not a good collar.
Right. Almost you have to reschedule and do a bunch of stuff. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So if that happens, you'll just say, hey, I've ordered the collar. It's not good. I need to start later. And then we just adjust it. Okay. I also suggest that you read your manual just to get familiar with it. And then once you're confirmed, I would send you an email with 3 videos. And you would review those videos. You don't need to do anything. You just watch them. Ideally closer to your class so that you get familiar with what we're going to do. And then we have the training session and it allows us to just jump straight into training.
Okay, that makes sense.
So like the video prep you so we're not spending time talking about simple stuff.
That makes
sense. Any questions or concerns?
So no, I think like when it comes to the process itself, no, I think more just wondering like, okay, the collar's about $240 and what the training program for 6 classes cost. There's more cost.
Off the top of my head, I think it's $925.
Okay.
But you get the credit from your consultation towards the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, the collar, it's pricey. Like you'll find some for like $30 or whatever.
No, but
you get what you pay for.
If I'm gonna do it, I'd rather do with whatever you recommend because clearly you know what you're like. You know the models. You know what you're talking about. Like,
yeah, they last for years too. I've had mine for 8 years, no issues. The most common thing that we see is the battery is a rechargeable lithium battery, much like a cell phone.
So it could. I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have a question. Do you, because when and this is just, again, this is a different trainer, so I would go with whatever you recommend, but at home, my brother used to say that he wouldn't like he shouldn't leave the collar on for more than like 8 hours total. I don't know if in a day or just in a row. But now they don't really use it at home because at home he's pretty good now. Now they just use it outside. So I guess what do you recommend as far as using it indoors versus outdoors? And do they just use it outside when we go outside? Does he use it inside as well? Like what?
Right. So inside, we almost always don't use the collar because dogs tend to be fine inside. Right. So if he's like, yeah, he's a great dog inside, no issues, then I go, then we don't need it. Okay. Let's say when guests come over, because he's excited and wants to jump on people, you pop it on him so you can stop the jumping and everything. And then once he's calmed down, you can remove it, no problem.
That's fair.
Definitely outside, we want to use the collar. So I agree with what your brother said. Now, if he was working on more things with his dog, because for you,
he was, because we're talking about like an 80-pound dog with a 3-year-old running around. So inside was also an issue. So it makes sense now that you say that. That he would have it on inside at the beginning. to
Correct.
like,
Yeah. So in your case, you want heel and recall and on occasion jumping on people. So you're more likely going to just use it when people come over or when you're outside.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So you don't recommend at the beginning, or like you don't think it's necessary for him to have it on at all times at the beginning in order to like get used to it or something? No.
No. The only way like that may potentially be a thing is if his response to the collar, like let's say he's like really timid with it, more exposure gets the dog over it faster.
Okay.
Okay. So like wearing it for an hour or two throughout the day while he's not training, so he doesn't think, oh, every time this thing is on, it's going to be train, train, train. Like he can wear it while he's playing at Trebs, even if you've not done recall. So he
Okay.
starts to associate like, oh, okay, I can have this thing on and still have.
And still, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things I noticed with Mac, my brother's dog. And again, that's the most interaction I've had at home with a dog that has it, which is why I keep bringing it up. Because most of the interactions I have with like Nash and Luna is outside, so it's different. But Mac, when he has it inside at the beginning, he used to be a lot more tense, like almost like he was a little bit more reactive, in that like he felt like he was in command at all times, and it took him a while of having it on inside to like calm down. So I guess it makes sense what you're saying with like, if he is like that, then I should probably put it on just longer so he gets used to it and realizes that like having it on isn't necessarily commands all the time.
Correct. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. Because typically what happens is when people see that their dog has a negative response, meaning they're more anxious, they're more nervous, they're more tense, right?
Yeah, that's what I felt like. He was more.
Is they tend to dial back, and it's less exposure, so the dog takes longer to get over it. So like, have you ever been skydiving?
No, I wish I had.
So so it sounds like you'd enjoy it. Most people are like, hell no. So but like, let's say with skydiving, like I would think you'd be stressed the first time.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like jumping off the plane, right? And if you did it once a year, like you'd kind of get used to it, but it'd take you a really long time.
Yeah.
And if you did it once a month, it'd be faster. And if you did it once every day, right? Because you're exposing yourself to that stressor on a regular basis, that you get over it faster. Same thing for dogs. Okay. So whenever I see that, I'll tell the owner, like, expose your dog more to it, use it more, have it on them and not do anything. Don't even turn it on. Take them to a dog park with it on. Don't use it. And eventually the dog gets over it. Okay. Now, one thing that can happen is, because the e-collar is a stressor, you're going to see Rolo go under stress. Okay. It could look like him being more nervous. It can look like him being more fearful or insecure or anxious. It's because his stress response is anxiety or fear. So because you're adding a stressor, you're going to get that in response. But then we have to work the dog through it in order for them to learn, like, oh, okay, like this isn't anything bad. So like Luna's a really good case because Luna was very flighty.
Yeah, I remember the first time we met. Yeah.
Yeah. She was super spooky. So when we started the training with her, she was so if you watch her first lesson, you'll see her just kind of all over the place. And then on lesson 2, you see like a completely different dog, because Elizabeth kept, of course, practicing and exposing her. And then she got over it. Now, like, she doesn't care. Right. Now she's running around, she's off leash and all that stuff, and she enjoys it. So, but it's because of continued exposure to the collar.
Yeah, I remember when I first met, it was like through the gate, because I was on one side of the park and she was in the other. And even then I could tell that she was like a little like hesitant to like, and Rolo was like, he was not even half of his size. But yeah, I've seen her now and she's just like happily running around the park.
Right. So one of the most common questions I get is like, when does the e-collar go away? Which I'm sure you've seen, like, Winnie and all them have their collars on. And in my book, when you need it, it doesn't. Just because you can't account for things happening in life, like random things, So like Roxy at Trebs actually took off on Narenga a couple of years ago, where she was playing with dogs, and like a rabbit ran through the field, and Roxy, just because she's got great prey drive, just took off after the rabbit, and she ran towards where that the kids' playground is,
Oh
and
yeah.
almost got into the street. And then Naranga had to like jack it up and then get her to
Stop
come
it.
back because it was so abrupt. So it doesn't mean that you're always having to use it. It's just kind of present so that Rolo's like, okay, I have to behave myself and listen because my mom has the collar on.
Right.
And it's because of opportunistic behavior. So you drive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go in the expressway?
Yeah.
Do you go the speed limit?
Nah.
Right. Most people don't go the speed limit. Right? That's opportunistic behavior.
Right.
But if we see a squad car, what happens?
You slow down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to get a ticket. Right. So think of the e-collar as a cop on the collar. When Rolo has it on, he's going to be more mindful. He's going to be obedient. He's not going to, push the boundaries and all that stuff because there's threat of consequence. But when you remove it, if you were to take him out with no collar, he's going to push things because he knows he can get away with it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it has nothing to do with the training or the training methods. It's simply opportunistic behavior. If he knows that he can get away with something, he's very well probably going to try. Okay. Humans do it too.
I see that already.
Yeah.
Little things, but I can see him trying to sneak things in or through or like, so I could see him without it still trying to do those things.
Correct. So it just means, when you take him outside, if you're going to go across the street, whatever, you have it on him. If you're just taking him out for a quick potty break, just to pee, like you don't need it. He's going to be on a leash. But anytime you're going to be, of course, walking him for any period of time, or he's going to be off leash anywhere, you want to have that collar on just in case anything happens. You still have a means of control, but also because he doesn't press the boundaries.
In the city, like when you're walking the dogs around the city, because I've seen like the pack walks and all that, but that's a lot of dogs. When you're kind of one-on-one and walking around, like let's say he has like the heel command and is doing well on recall, do you for the most part say it'd be okay to walk around without a leash, or do you still kind of think the leash should be on, and that's just like, I guess,
like he's able to do it, but should you do it type of thing?
Yeah.
So in the city of Chicago, there are leash laws.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's
like I saw Chris walking Winnie. I've seen him twice. Like he was going up Clifton, walking Winnie home. And he had no leash on her, but she was right by his side.
Right.
Elizabeth walks Luna off leash all the time. And she has a loose heel where she just kind of lets her run around and stuff. And then she'll put her in a tight heel whenever something's coming by.
Yeah, I've actually seen her like just walking around, not in the park, but like around. I've seen the loose heel where like Luna's kind of smelling around, and then if she sees someone come through, like I obviously don't see her pressing anything, but I do see Luna kind of fall back and laugh.
Yeah. So it's really one, personal preference, and two, your confidence.
Okay.
So like I've had people do a class and I come back class 2 and they're already walking their dog off leash because their confidence in the tool and the approach, and they did their homework and they practiced, is just through the roof, right? Now my advice is always take your time, don't jump because there's steps to things. But I used to walk my dog. I used to live in the South Loop, and I used to walk my dogs. I used to live on 11th and Wabash, down 11th to Grant Park, where the walking legs are. We go all the way down to the lakefront, all the way up the lakefront, up the river and back, which was like I think a 3 to 4 mile walk round trip, all off leash. Okay, and I would have 3 dogs, my chow, my pit, my chihuahua. And then even at one point, I used to have 4 dogs all off leash on my hip, and we'd walk the entire way off leash. And I only got stopped one time by a cop who told me he'd give me a ticket for every dog I had off leash. But I used to get stopped all the time by the police, and they would be like, "Oh, you should come train for the police department, all that stuff. Like we use a trainer like you."
Right.
So everybody but one guy was like, "This is amazing."
Right.
So what Elizabeth does is she always keeps her leash around her. So
okay. I think I've seen it on her neck. Yeah.
Yeah. So in case she gets stopped, she does have that available.
That's true.
So it just comes down to your personal preference. There's nothing that says you have to. And there's something that says that nothing that says other than, that
I guess,
you don't.
yeah, I guess maybe the more I do it, like the more I try it and get comfortable with this approach, not like the e-collar approach, but just like the training approach. Like the more I see him come back when I need him to and stuff, or like stay by me, I think I'll feel more comfortable, because right now I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it, but obviously
Sure.
he has reinforced or anything. So
Sure. And the one command that has to be off leash reliable is always the recall. Okay, that has to be off leash reliable, otherwise it's pointless.
agreed.
Everything else is whether or not you want them trained to that degree, right? So like if you told me, yeah, Jesse, I want to do like everything there is and I need them to be off leash reliable, I would tell you that's 12 classes, right?
Okay.
But in your case, you're like, no pulling on the leash and come when I call him no matter what. I go, okay,
Yeah.
that's the standard. And you can get them to the point where you wouldn't need a leash even in the heel within that time frame. It's just a matter of like, again, how confident you are, how comfortable you are, and how much you actually practice.
I'm actually like, I don't really need him to be fully off leash unless we're at like the park or something where at that point I need that recall more than him in case he does like bolt, right?
Right.
But I think I really need to be able to walk him without the leash, honestly.
Yeah.
It's
No,
more the pulling and
yeah. No,
it's
a
like
lot.
when other dogs come, really.
I'm sorry?
Sorry. It's really when other dogs come by or other people, he must say hello to everybody. And
Oh, sure. Yeah.
sometimes people don't want that. So I want to be
Correct. Yeah.
so it's
that's
more
what,
that. Uh-huh.
yeah, that's where the heel would come into play. And then,
Mhm.
you train them to the degree that you want them to be trained to. Okay. So I always tell everybody, but recall absolutely has to be off leash reliable. Otherwise, again, it's pointless. Okay. And that takes
Right.
time. So there's 2 classes to the recall, and you would have all the information you need. And then I would give you all the examples to practice with. And then, like I said, if you only practice at Trebs, he'll be great there. He'll be amazing and all that stuff. You can get him to come back. But then if you want him to be even better, you'd have to expose him to new environments. Okay. But if your life is simply walk him on a leash and go to Trebs, then you're perfectly fine with it. And then like in a year or two, if you move to a new neighborhood with a new park, you would just go back and practice at the park there. So it transfers to that park, and then you're on the new neighborhood. Okay.
I mean, I would like the ability to, but I think I'm fine. I think once I know the basic principles, I can apply them, be it in my apartment or like a friend's apartment or like, I mean, like park or whatever. But I know that it would require me practicing, that he's not just gonna know them there. That seems fairly logical to me, so that I'm
Yeah.
not too concerned about
Yeah.
that.
And so you need like a long leash. Sorry, you chopped out there.
Um, oh, sorry, I have a 30-foot
Go.
leash, so I think
How long?
30 foot.
Yeah, perfect. That's length that we use.
So I think my other question would be more so the sessions you said, how far apart are they usually?
Typically one.
Like, is it a week?
Yeah, once a week for an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, because you need a week to practice and make mistakes and stuff, and then to see like what needs work and what's working. Because some people have tried to do like 2 in a week, and I'll tell them it's too fast. You need more time to like space it out so Rolo can learn and you can learn, and then we can figure out what needs work every time you come back each week.
Okay, that makes sense.
Other questions?
Okay. Maybe I'll have some more when I start going through the process, but
Sure,
this all
yeah.
seems fairly straight.
Yeah, no, it is pretty straightforward. In your case, is simple. It's just walk on a leash, come when I call you, and then like some very minor behavioral things. And if And if everything is going well and we have, again, that extra class, we can teach something new or we can review stuff. Okay. You just let me know what you want to do. And then and I'm sorry.
What do you recommend? Like, what do you recommend as far as like, I mean, obviously heel, off leash, recall, but is there other commands or items that you think would benefit any dog, no matter like the temperament, to just know?
Place command, which is go to your bed and don't move. So
he does that pretty good.
He
already does that one pretty well.
Okay. Even with distractions?
Yeah. Well, because right now he knows that if I say that and he does it, he'll get a treat. So it's very treat motivated. I don't know if he'd do it if I stopped giving treats. That's right. That's the one big key.
Yeah. So with place command, it would allow you to, like, for instance, if you decide to go to a restaurant and you want to bring Rolo with you because it's a nice day out, you would just bring like a dog bed or like a little towel, and you tell him to go to his place.
Okay, that's not okay. Then that's different than what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking more like in the apartment. If like when I want to answer the door, like somebody knocked on the door and I want to answer it and I want to make sure he's not like darting out the door.
Yeah.
I do have, like, all I do is tell him to go to his crate and he goes into his crate and just lays down until like I tell him he can leave. But I don't think he'd be able to do that. Well, first off, the crate wouldn't be there, but also I don't think you'd be able to do that with distractions at all.
Right.
Like outside.
Yeah. So that concept is very similar to the place command, except it's his crate.
Right.
And place command is movable, right?
Okay, that's huge. Okay.
So like you could, you could use it, for instance.
Well, maybe we get.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. That maybe, yeah, like maybe we have the time we can get to that one.
Yeah, which is, it's not uncommon, like, because you have a straightforward case, right? It's not, if we were dealing with reactivity or something like that, I always tell people the behaviors are variable because it should be straightforward, but it isn't always that way. So if we spend more time on reactivity, we spend less time on obedience, right? So in your case, I don't see why we wouldn't get to place command, because heal is 2 classes, recall is 2 classes, which leaves 2, one for behavior and then the other one for place, which place is super simple to teach. And again, I give you all the information and then it's just you take the time to practice it to that degree. Okay, and it's easier to practice
because you
practice inside.
Do you do, like, let's say we get through the 6 sessions and then I need kind of like, okay, I went through everything's going for the most part well, but there's one thing that I might need a little bit of a reinforcement session. Do you do kind of one-offs like that after the fact?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once a client has done a program, they don't have to commit to another program. Okay. For people who are just starting e-collar, they have to commit to at least the 3-class program. Okay. To make sure that the dog understands the collar well, that the owner understands the collar well. And then if they're like, okay, we got what we needed, and then like a year later something happens and they just need a class, that's not a problem.
Okay, that's good.
Because I can't teach everything in one class. Like it takes time.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Okay. So Maria would reach out. If it takes her a day or so, don't be alarmed. We got a lot of requests. If you know you're good to go and you're like, yes, 6 classes sounds good, I want it, then you can turn around and just say, hey, Maria, 6 weeks is what I'm interested in. And then she'll just send you the information, get you the contract, send you the information for the collar, and get you in process. Because usually she waits for me. I send her an email with all the information, and then she turns around and gets to everybody individually. So if you know, like, yeah, 6 classes sounds good, you can let her know and she'll get you right into the process. Otherwise, she'll get back to you within a day or so. Okay,
that's fine. I'm not like, I want this to happen, but I'm also not in a hurry. So I know you're busy.
Plus, the longer you wait, the weather will be better.
Yes. True. I don't have to deal with being outside when it's cold.
Yeah. So, because now that spring's coming, I'm gonna start going back to training at Oz Park,
Okay.
which is super distracting right now. Everybody is traveling to me because of the winter and everything.
Oh, to the facility, yeah.
Yeah. So, I expect maybe by the end of the month or so, we're probably gonna start transitioning back to Oz Park. And as long as it's not raining or something like that, we'll be training there.
Okay.
Otherwise, if there's like bad weather, then we just move back to my facility for that class. And then the following week, we go back to training at Oz.
Okay. That makes
Okay. So if you have any other questions, you just let us know. Otherwise, Maria will reach out and she'll get you all set up. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for the time. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.